ओ ओ ओ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। Up to 24 verse, yeah. कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम्, कर्म किं परं कर्म तच्छडम्। कृतिमहोदधौ पतनकारणम्, फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम्। ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं, चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकम्। कायवाङ्मनः कार्यमुत्तमम्, पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात्। जगत ईषधी युक्तसेवनम्, अष्टमूर्तिभृदेवपूजनम्। उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दतः, चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम्। आज्यधारया स्तोत्रसासमम्, सरलचिन्तनं विरलतः परम्। भेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ, भावनाभिदा पावनीमत। भावशून्यस भावसुस्थितिः, भावना बलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा। हृस्थले मन स्वस्थता क्रिया, भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितम्। वायुरोधना लीयते मनः, जालपक्षिवद्रोधसाधनम्। चित्तवायवाश्चित्क्रियायुताः, शाखयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलक। लयविनाशने उभयरोधने, लयगतं पुनर्भवति नोऽमृतम्। प्राणबन्धनाल्लीनमानसम्, एकचिन्तनान्नासमेत्यदः। नष्टमानसोत्कृष्टयोगिनः, कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्थितं यतः। दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मनः, चित्वदर्शनं तत्त्वदर्शनम्। मानसन्तु किं मार्गणे कृते, नैव मानसं मार्ग आर्जवत्। वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः, वृत्तयो मनो विद्वहं मनः। अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतः, ऐपतत्यहं निजविचारणम्। अहमिनाशभाज्यहमहन्तया, स्फुरति हृत्स्वयं परमपूर्णसत् इदमहं पदाभिख्यमन्वहम् अहमिलीनकेऽप्यलयसत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रिय प्राणधीतमः नाहमेकसत्तज्जडं ह्यसत् सत्त्वभासिका चित्त्ववेतरा सत्तया हि चित्तया ह्यहम् जीव ईश्वरोर्वेषधीभिधा सत्त्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम्. Okay. In the last class, we have seen that this verse 23, 24, 25, they are all linked to the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. As I mentioned, Shravana is more trying to understand what the texts are telling. Yeah, what the texts are telling, what is the nature of that Jiva, what is the nature of the Ishvara. So these two, it says Sattva Bhasika Chitkva Vetara Sattaya Hichit Chittaya Hyam. So who is that Aham? So this Aham Brahmasmi Mahavakya is linked to this Shravana. So what is the nature of this one? Ramana Maharshi was telling that this is the is there another consciousness illumining the existence? Because with great difficulty in Jnana Yoga, what we do in Shravana, trying to understand, is that I am not this inert layer of body-mind. I am the consciousness principle behind, which illumines, pervades this entire system of the inert layers. You can take it as 5 layers of Pranadhitamaha, because he did mention that Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. He slightly differently he mentioned, but this is what he said in the verse 22. So we have seen that. So these koshas are pervaded by this consciousness which is there, which appears to be part and parcel of this inert layers. But really speaking, he said that our true nature is that of unattached asanga chit aspect, which actually is there. It appears to be part and parcel of these 5 inert layers, but with a little bit of meditation, contemplation, we can easily say that the inert layers doesn't have any of this capacity to bring out that consciousness as such. It is the consciousness which actually gives rise to this pseudo or shadow, abhasa. There are many terms that we use in our Shastras to say that this consciousness that we feel in these layers is only a borrowed consciousness. So and we have seen that intrinsic quality of a thing and is different from a borrowed quality. Like intrinsic quality, we said the example we always give, we borrow from Atmabodha of Shankaracharya, is that any vegetable that is kept on the stove in a pot in a water, when vegetable may become very hot, when you cannot even touch it when it is very hot, but really speaking, it's only a borrowed characteristic. The intrinsic character of heat only belongs to the fire. Similarly, the body, when it borrows, what is the measure of that? When that concept is taken out, or when the when you take it out of the of that particular heat, all the others like pan, water, vegetable will cool down to their normal temperatures. Fire remains hot always. So this is the intrinsic qualities that we talk about. And since the layers display this temporary nature of the sentiency, that is why they say once that comes and goes cannot be intrinsic to it. So the sentiency is not intrinsic to the inert layers. There must be another aspect which is actually lending this sentiency to the inert layers, and that thing which lends the sentiency is referred to as the awareness principle, which includes the Chit and Sat aspects, the existence and consciousness aspects, is the true nature, and that is the intrinsic nature of the awareness principle, and that awareness principle is nothing but me. So I only feel that, because if you see Jiva, when you define Jiva, you don't define rock as a Jiva. Jiva is always where there is a feeling of being and feeling of that I know I exist. These two put together makes it Jiva. And the only thing that actually gives that kind of a or displays that kind of intrinsic qualities is that awareness principle. And hence, by definition, by experience, I must be that consciousness principle or awareness principle behind. I cannot be any of the 5 different layers of inertness that I think is me when in a waking state, when everything is there. Yeah. So this experientially, you can never deny body is sentient as long as you are alive. Yeah, experientially, because only when you go into your deep sleep, you may say that I left my body because I don't know. Body may be still alive with prana, but as an experiencer, I don't experience body at all. But in deep sleep, unfortunately, I don't even have that intellect and memory to bring back. Only when I wake up, I can say that this body is not, I can drop this body, but I still exist. I can drop the mind, I can still exist. I can drop the intellect, but I still exist. So this is what we have seen in verse 22, 23, very important verses of Upadesa Sara. And that's why we have actually seen that for a long period of time now, almost 3-4 classes. Yeah. So Sravanam is Pramanagata Sandeha, as I mentioned, to understand the nature of the texts, that scriptures that are there, what is their central message, is nothing but this 23rd verse, which said that Sattva Bhasika, the illuminator of the Sat, and Sattayahit, existence is consciousness, and Chittayahayam, consciousness indeed I am. So it is not that the consciousness and existence principle, they are two different things, because we may think like that, but really speaking, they are one and the same. They cannot be. So it is the awareness principle behind on which this consciousness and existence of the Jiva as well as Jagat, both are coming and going. As for a period of time, they appear on that substratum of consciousness, and then they disappear. This is what we see around, our own experience that the Maharshi is talking about here. So this is what we have seen in verse 23. In verse 24, Isha Jivayor Veshadhi Bida, Sattva Bhavato Vastu Kevalam. So here we are looking at now the second aspect of our sadhana. So Jnana Yoga already completed by Maharshi. Now he is talking about the sadhana. The sadhana is mananam. When we talk about once we know the nature of the jiva and nature of the Ishvara or Brahman, they are one and the same, is the central core message of the core message of our scriptures. So once we overcome that aspect of Shravana's core message, is that we still have this doubt as to how that infinite consciousness can be me. I definitely appear to be very, very minute aspect in this entire creation that I am experiencing around me. So there are 3 aspects which normally people talk about, the Shastras or books talk about: Kala Paricheda, Desha Paricheda, and Vastu Paricheda. Terms we hear many times. Yeah. So one that makes it Purna is when that infinite consciousness does not seem to have this Kala Paricheda, means limitation by Kala, limitation of the time. Means what? That aspect appears to be Nitya. We have seen in Bhagavad Gita, the Nitya is the first thing what Krishna defines our Atma as. So here, Kala Paricheda, I appear to be very limited in terms of my time availability with me. Everybody knows that there is a date of birth and there is a date of death. Inevitably, whatever is born, gone, and I seem to be born into this world. I don't think I have come and before that, and as Krishna says, it is I was there, never a time when I was not there, never a time when I will not be there. I don't feel like that. So this Nityatvam aspect which is there is what makes it this particular thing a requirement. But so this Kala Paricheda is very much there for me, but that Ishvara is being defined as Purna, where there is no Kala Paricheda. How can I now understand that nature of that consciousness principle, that awareness principle, which is supposed to be I? How will I understand that? So we need to do mananam on the aspect of what is the nature of this Brahman who can appear as the limited being that I am. So when you do mananam on that, go through the Shastras, it all comes down to that the only way these two can coexist is when they belong to two different orders of reality. One is something which is a truth which is there, and the second aspect is only a delusion. It seems to come and go, and that is one of the reasons why I can be doing that. Second one, that may be difficult for people to grasp at the initial stages, which is there, to say that all this is illusion, there is no wall, there is no me, very, very difficult. So they come out with the concept of upadhi. Yeah, why I'm telling this is the type of non-dual meditation one requires to do every day when they sit for meditation. How is that possible? So one way to do is you bring the avachedavad, means a limited by upadhi. So it appears to be that for me, experientially, it appears to be like that, but logically, it is possible that this is only a borrowed existence that is making me believe like that. Yeah. So this is how. So avachedavada is slightly different. It is not a reflection, but it is more limited by a upadhi. Example, we again go back, remember that space which is within a bottle, within a room, within a house, whereas the space outside appears to be different from the space which is limited here, and I define these spaces also. A pot with a 2-liter capacity, 5-liter capacity, etc. It's only space, but defined by the shape of the pot and size of the pot. So initially, it may appear that this is different from the space outside, but once the upadhi of the pot is broken or the house is broken, then seamlessly the inner space merges with the outer space. These are the terms we use. But really speaking, those no merging. Always it was one. Before the house was created, there was one space. After the house is gone, there is one space. Where we get carried away is when the house is there, the space appear to be split between individual and external, which is there, expanding space, which is outside. But really speaking, even when the house is there, the space is one, otaprotaha, in and through, there was always this one space. There are no two different spaces. So if we take that, this body, mind, intellect appear to be the upadhi, the limiting factors, which kind of apparently create this confusion of individuality. But really speaking, it is one and the same space. So this Kala Paricheda and Desha Paricheda. And the third one which they talk about is Vastu Paricheda. Vastu Paricheda means it's slightly different, this one, that an object appears to be limited by its boundaries. Yeah. So it is not infinite, is not there. Apart from that, if this cup is there, then the cup is limited by the shape and size of that object which is there. Yeah. Similarly, any other object outside appears to be part and parcel. If I am a cup, I am not a computer. If I am computer, I am not the table. If I am Shankar, I am not Sumanji. So this sort of thing seems to be limited by an object. One object cannot be the other. So if suppose somebody says it is Vastu Paricheda, is not there. That limitation of Vastu is not there. What does it mean? Advaita. Advaitam is what? There is no second thing other than it. So the Advaita principle is this Vastu Paricheda. Slightly different from Kala and Desha, more easy to understand. But Vastu Paricheda is the one which defines that principle of consciousness is Advaita. There is no second thing. Everything is that Ishvara. And when all these three put together, when we talk about, we come out with this Vivartavada. Okay?
Shankarji, it's just, you've explained it logically. I think I can understand it. Yet a person, if there is a person who doesn't think this table is different from who I am, we will call him mad.
Correct.
Won't we?
Yeah, we do that. And that's
Yeah.
why many of the Siddhas appear to be mad to people.
Yes.
Because they don't see the difference. But they don't know how to express it properly. So, like Ramana Maharshi or Chinmayananda, they may not explain, but they see that. So, you may think that they are mad people.
Yeah, they're crazy.
And crazy. Many people may
Yeah.
appear crazy, but some people, they see when Ramana Maharshi was doing his tapas in the cave, they say that every small insects, that everything used to come and he never used to have any of this one. What you call such a person? Mad. Yeah, but many years he was considered mad in Arunachala till that person who is there, Ganapasa Shastri, he recognized that person's realized nature. So it is very, very common that you will think that they are mad people, really speaking. Yeah, true. Manojji, you have a question?
Hari Om Sankarji. So, Vastu Paricheta, that is bringing one question for me, that then what is Jiva? How we can define Jiva? Is it the table is also Jiva and mountain is also Jiva?
In a way, yes. And that is the reason why in our Shastras and Sanatana Dharma, we don't consider anything without, it's not a jiva, we don't consider that way. So a river becomes a mother, mountain becomes a father at a higher level, even table can be. So many people when they, for example, some of these concepts have been brought by even the Devatas, which are supposed to be there. For example, wood is there. If I consider the tree as a mother, then if I kick a table by mistake, people will do like this. More importantly, if you touch a paper with your leg in Indian response, everybody, whatever the paper that is, you feel slightly this one that, oh, what did I do? So I do like this. Why? Because I am recognizing the Ishwaratvam in everything which is there. And that is the reason why a tortoise can be our God, a dog can be our God, Dakshinamurti, the people which are there, dog can be our, the tortoise can be, everything can be your God. Why? Because we recognize that. Jivatvam definition is slightly different, Manojji, for our own understanding. So Jiva, we say only when sentiency is more, consciousness is more prevalent or more expressive, we call that as Jiva, whereas the other we define that as Jagat. But Jagat, the existence principle is more prasputam. It is more coming out in where the world is concerned. So for definition purpose, we distinguish these two and say Jiva is limited to those things where consciousness is more prevalent, whereas the Jagat is where existence is more this one. But both existence and consciousness, they are one and the same. In fact, one of the definitions of mukti is when you can recognize the fact that the sentiency, consciousness in me is nothing but the existence or sat in the world. Once we understand these two very clearly, you have this mukti. That's one of the definitions.
Thank you. One a minor point on when we say Panch Mahabhuta and Panch Tattva, so the quality or the nature of those Mahabhuta, just you explained the fire has its own nature, the heat.
Hmm.
So all these things can be considered as a Jagat, and the power that is coming is the source, is the means what we are calling the Tattva. Yeah.
Yeah, there are two aspects to that. Yeah, when we talk about Pancha Mahabhuta, remember that moment Pancha Mahabhuta comes into picture, it is only a projection of the Maya. So there is a element of delusion starting right from the very nature of those Pancha Mahabhuta. Pancha Mahabhuta also there are two aspects. One is subtle aspect, one is grosser aspect. Grosser aspect of Pancha Mahabhuta, you will find that it is in the Jagat. Whereas you may think that your mind and intellect are, that is where your consciousness is there. But remember, they are also made of Pancha Mahabhuta. When the Pancha Mahabhuta are very subtle by nature, they create the very Brahma. The Pancha or the Chaturmukha Brahma that we talk about, or Ishvara of the causal body, or the all bodies, physical bodies put together, everything is made up of this Pancha Mahabhuta. At a subtle level, you are only where the variation between these three, that is where the concept of gunas come into picture, Manoj. These are all for your contemplation, yeah? So when we talk about
Sure.
the buddhi and manaha, they are made of sattva guna pradhan. They still have the other two. They are also made of gunas. They are also made of the five pancha mahabhutas.
Thank you.
So the thing, Shankarji, is for me, speaking for me, the projection or the illusion or Maya is so entrenched, it's hard to make that separation. It's because it's almost like denying the reality that we are having class. Maybe
Correct.
there's no class happening.
There is no class happening. There is
There's
no.
nobody listening, nobody speaking, nothing is happening.
Correct.
Yet, if you start to think in those terms, I think it will become quite hard to function in the world.
This question will always come, especially once you are an advanced student. You are doing this, as I mentioned, the non-dual meditation. If you are doing and you say everything is there and this what I'm seeing is only like a dream, yeah, which I can deny the reality associated with that, you become fearful. Because if everything is dropped, what am I looking at my life, really speaking?
Yeah.
That type of this one will come. Verse 27 or 28, Ramana Maharshi, that is the reason, brings in the concept of Ananda. Remember, till now, we are only talking of Chit and Sat, whereas the real nature of Ishvara or Brahman you can take is Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchit Ananda. That Ananda picture will have to come into picture. The only way where you can, you have to bring in that type of a fear, you have to take it out with the concept of that Anantatvam transferring as Ananda. Be happy in every aspect of in delusion, you should be happy. In singular nature, you should be happy. Both ways, you have to bring in that happiness, bliss into your this one. Be happy even being present here. Moment the Ananda comes into picture, they say this fearfulness will come down, and more happy you are, more happily you will serve the world around with the knowledge that I am that consciousness principle. What I am experiencing, what I am seeing is not really the truth available. It is only a temporary aspect which is there, but you will enjoy the temporariness also. These are the answer which Shastras give us. How that happens, I don't know. Experientially, I don't know. But this is what they say.
It's helpful to understand because the thing is, if all of this is an illusion, for a mom who has small children, she will say these are also illusion. these children. I don't need to feed them. I don't need to care of them. But you can't do that. Yeah.
See, what happens is, that is why every text will have, Anuji, one aspect which is called how the Siddha Purusha exists in this world. Because this is your problem. That I feel if I do this, I may leave my duties with the
Yes.
world here. Not only duties, I may go mad because I don't know, I'm seeing this, everything is this one.
Disoriented.
Ah.
I have no orientation.
So
there.
that is why every text will say how a person who is realized master lives in this world, part and parcel of many Upanishads. They need not do that. Once they have given the knowledge, that is over. Even Bhagavad Gita talks about who is the person who is liberated. Look at Gurudev and others who have established liberated masters who are there. Did they leave the world? Did they appear that as if they have left anything unattended to? No, everything. Their love becomes much more. That is where this Ananda comes into picture. Out of a realization, they come out and they do much, much better to the world. However, there is a downside that you may think a downside from the society point of view. Some of the masters, they withdraw. Like Ramana Maharshi, maybe possibly at the age of 8 or 9 or 12, I don't know when he went off. At that time, he had some idea at least of this liberatedness because of his previous janmas, sadhana possibly. But he withdrew into the mountain. He was not bothered till somebody discovered, and when they brought in, he displayed the qualities which already are there for many years to come. Otherwise, to write bring out a Upadesa Sara is not that easy. For a person who went off very early in life to this one and just doing sadhana, how did he get this knowledge? Must be there in internal within him for many janmas, really speaking. So, yeah, there is a downside that some of them may appear to be withdrawn. Even people, as you mentioned, there are children who are there. There are many fathers who may have just left it and gone. There are many husbands who left and went because they don't see any point in supporting this mithya prapancha. Yeah, so that is a possibility. But in overall, this one, you must just say as this is the prarabdha of the people whom that master is leaving and going away can be a prarabdha because they are not seeing any reality associated with that. Appears harsh, but that can be a reality. But at the same time, it is not a necessity, is what people like Chinmayananda will display. That they will be within the society, they do much more. And similarly, there can be people like within samsara, a realized master, and they always refer back to Janaka. Yeah, he did not say that I am a realized master and left Sita and others. He brought Rama for Sita. Of course, it may be this one which has his Karana Janma, but it is possible that you don't require to leave anything, but bring in the love. This is what they say. Bring in Ananda. Love is nothing but Ananda. When you feel love, when you have Ananda, you're doing that, if you get joy of doing, then you say that is love. Because I have love in terms of my spouse, my children, my society, my brothers, my sisters, my friends, doesn't matter who. And for a realized master, the whole world is their family. So you can be like that.
I remember someone mentioned that when India was having the freedom struggle, somebody asked Sri Ramana Maharishi that, we are slaves. And he said, who is a
Who is a slave?
and who is free? Like for him, it was nothing even that our country was enslaved by the Britishers and we are having this freedom struggle. It didn't mean anything. So
Yeah.
to others, it would appear, how can you be
so
detached
and so harsh? Yeah, it appears. This is not only with English. Even when Alexander came here, he found many Siddha Purushas who do this type of a withdrawal. And the one fellow, of course, India already had that name before. That is the reason they were coming towards India, gravitate towards India, all these conquerors. Why? Because we were Sonia Kichidia. So they used to come this way. But even Alexander, they say when they came, he sent an emissary to one such a person. He says, you come, otherwise you come and see that my God. So the fellow said, who is the God? What you are talking about? You go and ask him to come if you want to see me. I am not going to go there. So it is there always. And there was a term that is used called Ajagara. Ajagara. Ajagara is the alligator.
Is alligator.
Alligator.
That's what I
So
thought.
there is a one type of sadhus who are referred to as Ajagara. Means those people who doesn't go out to in search of food. They wait for the food to come. That is the nature of Ajagara. Alligator lives only in the pond, waiting for the others to come, food to come. They don't go. So these people are like that. So they are called Ajagara Sampradaya. So this one, the Alexander who came is supposed to be one like that. Or normally what they say is they are so detached that they don't go out. Physically they may go, but really speaking, they don't seek anything.
Yeah.
That is the Ajagara, that quality that we talk about. So even Alexander, he took one such person is what they say. And it is recorded in their books as such. Yeah. So yeah, there is a possibility that if you imbibe this quality of asangoham, asangatvam, the detachment, and ajagara quality that I don't go anywhere, I don't require to do anything. If that is at the extreme, then you may get such this one. But it is part and parcel of the person leaving that body in terms of this. Okay, so here, Isha Jiva Yoho, there are two aspects here what they talk about is that Jivatma and Paramatma. Two aspects is being talked about here. Yeah. Isha Jiva Yo means between Ishvara, the Lord, and Jiva individual. The definition of Jiva Manoji, what we are talking about, Veshadhibida means there is only difference from the standpoint of the body. That means the gross equipment and the intellect. This is how Guruji is telling. Yeah. Guruji is telling that if you think of a jiva only from the body point of view, then the desha paricheda, vastu paricheda will be working very heavy. Then you become a jiva. Whereas if you move to the intellect, the subtle equipment, Guruji says, if you say that you are that subtle equipment, subtleness is from the pervasiveness. So it becomes more expansive by nature, and mind doesn't have any real limitation. Sitting here, I can be in India. And most of the time, we are at different places sitting here. Even sitting in the class, I am thinking of something or somebody, I actually go away. I'm not part of this. So there is a possibility like this. So he says the subtle equipment, if you look at from the perspective of a subtle equipment like intellect, sattva bhavatah, from the standpoint of their true nature, vastu kevalam means, but from the standpoint of their true nature, supreme reality alone is. So here we are talking about the strength. See, how to put this? The individuality when we define, yeah, how I say I am limited is in terms of strength, I am limited because I can have only limited strength with me. So the term that is used is Alpa Shaktiman. Alpa Shakti. I don't have too much of Shakti associated with me. Whatever, even I'm Dara Singh, there's a limitation as to what physically I have in terms of the strength. Whereas that Ishvara is all omnipotent that we say, Sarva Shaktiman. Yeah, omnipotent. I have every Shakti, every power that is there is with that Ishvara. So he says that when we talk about limitation, it is the individuality. When we talk about Ishvara, it is with the universe which is there. Yeah. So there are some masters who talk about body, mind, intellect. All three put together, the limitation is the limitation that makes an individual. Whereas when we have a Ishvara, again, I told you about Upadhi. So for the Upadhi, it is at a universal level, totality level. If we take, then the totality is the Ishvara. It is only the covering that we are seeing limits and defines the Jiva and the Ishvara. So the best example they talk about, again, go back to your ocean and waves. So waves appear to be very individualistic. Ocean appears to be the totality. Whereas both of them are of the nature of the water. If you see the wave as a water, ocean as a water, they are one and the same. However, there appears to be a upadhi, a limitation that is given. The wave appears to be very small, a thing which is very sensitive to, it will disappear within no time. Another wave might come in its place, but a wave comes, goes, a wave comes and goes. There seems to be this one like that. So from the very nature of this Jiva, nature of the Ishvara, both of them are of consciousness and existence. Being and knowing. I say that again and again. So being and knowing, consciousness and the existence is the true nature of the wave and also the ocean. The true nature is water. Similarly, that awareness principle is one and the same, which is there in the Jivatva and Ishvaratva. Whereas the moment you talk about this awareness principle, which is there, which makes up the consciousness and existence, we say that that is the Brahman. It is not whether it is ocean. Ocean is not, ocean is Ishvara. The wave is the Jiva, whereas the water is the very true nature, which becomes the Brahman. So Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, all three are delusions from that perspective. Yeah. And Gurudev tells in one of these verses where Guruji, when he gives, he talks about this as well, saying that even the Ishvaratvam, if you say that I have seen in my meditation, I have seen Rama, I have seen Krishna, very clearly he talks about, he says that if you see a name and form, the moment you bring in a name and form to that awareness principle, it is actually nothing but a delusion still. You require to overcome that in terms of your duality that you still display. Unless you bring in the true nature of the Rama, true nature of Krishna, and then say that that true nature is nothing but me. Aham Brahmasmi. That Aham should be, principle should come in, and that Aham should be seen as the overall principle of existence and consciousness. He will add Ananda a little later. Manoji, you again raised
Yeah, Sankarji, I think I think partly you answered my question actually after in the last sentence actually, but I had a question. It is easier to understand about Jiva and Brahman, but the moment we are bringing into the picture Ishwar, that is making a lot more confusion. So
Yeah.
why there is a need of Ishwar?
Yeah.
And because Ishwar is also due to Panch Mahabhuta and everything is aropit or kind of that kind of state. So if we are going towards that route, actually, I think we are misled or not properly guided, actually. So there is a confusion. We need to remove that,
Yeah.
and or do we need the link? That's my question.
There are many masters. For example, Buddhism, Buddha. There are also Kapila Maharshi, Sankhya Yoga. They and Nyaya, for example, initially, then they changed this one later on. But the initial Nyaya philosophy didn't had any Ishvara. They don't see any requirement for Ishvara. Okay. Whereas Shankaracharya insists that you do require, because you are trying to overcome the layers of individuality that is there with you. Why Maharshi has brought in here the two in terms of Jivatva and Paramatma or Ishwaratvam is mainly because for sadhana purpose, you require, beautifully Chinmayanji puts as a rungs of the ladder. the very nature of Jiva, it is so difficult for me to overcome this feeling of limitations. Desa Kala Vastu Paricheda, that you require something just before that Brahman to hold on to leave this, to kick this away. You do require something, is what Shankaracharya believes in. That's why he established those Shanmata, that six, some say five, some say six, but doesn't matter. So the six religions he established, that Ishvara with their form and name, he established. Vishnu, Shiva, etc., etc. He has got six different deities and he wrote stotram about that. Bhakti he introduced as a requirement more in terms of kicking out the individuality which is there. Because in Karma Yoga also what you are doing, everything you require to Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, he brings out in that term. I require to overcome my so much individual requirement for me to establish my ego in this world. To say that this is nothing, I require another rung of the ladder. And it is purely from sadhana perspective, you require a Ishvara. That is one way to look at. Second way to look at is, again, Shastras talk about more in terms of, as I told, Avachedavada or reflection theory that we talk about. If we say reflection is there and reflection is the reality for me, actually speaking, a person standing in front of a mirror and there is a reflection of their face in the mirror. That mirror somehow, because of the nature of the person standing in front of the mirror, it appears to be different. If that person who is standing or the thing which is standing ahead, you put a candle in front of a mirror, then the flame of the candle is reflected in the mirror. It appears to be flame. It also gives light. Maybe it gives even the heat. If you see that, because I'm used to this candle with the heat and light. Or sun's reflection in the pond, for example. So when we talk about it in relation to the reflection, the original appears to be bound to this reflection. If that original moves away from the mirror, then this disappears. It is not there. So the concept of Ishvara is nothing but that person standing in front of the mirror. Truly, the person is not bound to this mirror at all, but he appears to be bound. As long as he is bound to the mirror, then the reflection exists. If the reflection is not there, that person, if this goes away, then reflection is not there. But my problem is, I am that reflection. So I require the other person, who is the original reality, to be in front of me, in front of that mirror for my own existence. If I want to come out and I say only that person exists, then that person in relation to the mirror is only given the name of Ishvara. Is Ishvara there? No, he was never bound to the mirror. He is a Brahman only. He will just move around here and there. There is no requirement for him. But from my side, from sadhana perspective, I treat that person of Brahman as an Ishvara so that I can get hold of him and leave this individuality. So Ishvaratvam is from that perspective, and that is when the Saguna aspect will come into picture. I say that I am a Jiva in terms of my human personality, then I create that Ishvara in terms of human personality. We have the mother, we have the father, we have the person who or Purusha. You give different names, but we only give at that status is given as the subject with respect to the object created in the mirror.
Shankarji, could it also be that Ishvara was introduced because how are you going to talk about Maya and all of that? Like, how are you going to bring in Shakti?
And Maya is nothing but Shakti in that
Maya
sense.
Shakti.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just
I understand what you are telling. Yeah. But really speaking, you don't require. If you go into any of the Upanishads, etc., Maya, definitely yes, Maya is the Upadhi for Ishvara to exist. Maya is the upadhi for Ishvara to exist. So Maya should be before Ishvara. Maya should be before Ishvara, that makes Ishvara appear. The same Maya as an avidya becomes the upadhi for Jiva. So the avidya exists before for Jiva to appear. This is the mirror. For Jiva to appear, mirror should be there. So for Ishvara to appear, Maya should be there. So Maya, the Shakti, as the real, many hymns are there. Saundarya Lahari, as I mentioned in the previous classes. It appears to be because of that, the Ishvaratvam comes into picture, really speaking. Think from that perspective.
Okay, I have
Some
to-
people say Maya is the Shakti of Ishvara. So you may think that it belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara is projecting this world with the Maya as the Upadhi, maybe.
Well, so in Bhagavad Gita, doesn't Sri Krishna say that he, Shakti or Maya, is something that is his, it does not operate without him, and ultimately it is, he doesn't do anything, everything is done by Shakti or Maya or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he just is Sakshi.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now imagine the same example I gave you
Ah.
of subject in front of the mirror.
Okay.
From the reflection perspective, Ishvara is bound to the mirror. Ishvara is bound to the mirror because my own existence will not be there if that subject moves away. So there is no difference between Ishvara and Brahman. Really speaking, they are one and the same.
Yeah.
However, when he is appeared to be in front of the mirror, bound to the mirror, the entire creation comes into picture. Maya, when it is there, it appears to be. So Ishvaratvam is only a status that is given to the Brahman. So from that perspective, if you see, Maya becomes a power of that Ishvara for projection to happen.
But now you're saying,
But really speaking, that is the reason why this thing goes this one in a spin. Appears to be like that. But if you go into a little bit more in terms of the logic associated with that, what we are telling is that Maya should be before even the Ishvara can appear. Maya is the original Shakti, really speaking. But apparently, it appears that mirror is depending on Ishvara.
okay,
Okay.
I have to.
Don't worry too much about this, because
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things, if you go more and more, you end up with like what physicists have done in this century or last century.
Getting into ditch.
As long as they are okay in terms of the reality of the world, everything was going on very well, and you have a different laws that were created, observed, etc., etc. But suddenly you find that once the quantum mechanics came into picture, everything went into a toss. So if you anytime you try to examine the world more and more it appears and goes away from you. And that is one of the main response to say of Vivartavada. To say that this is a delusion, no more thing is required other than going through the physics and how it took its turn with the quantum mechanics.
Mhm.
It seems to operate with a completely different set of rules. The loss itself will just go away for a toss of physical world once you start examining it at the core. And that is what Mithya is all about. More and more you start engaging with the snake which has come on the rope, more and more it appears to be completely different where it goes. And that is one of the reasons why we say that this is nothing but a Mithya. Yeah, it appears to be very this one. You may think like that, but again, you remember when we talk about the world or the nature of this world or the elements which are associated with Jivatvam, etc. More and more you say that it appears to be completely different. I appear to be very limited, but Shastras say I am unlimited. So how do I reconcile between these two is a major issue. Similarly, now there are the Shastras would say that Ishvara is not there. There are some philosophies like Advaita Vedanta, we say is a requirement for these three to exist together, because that is part and parcel of the nature of this illusion that is being created. And again, when you go, there seems to be contradictory. Whether Maya is a power of Ishvara or Ishvara depends on Maya. If you say Ishvaratvam depends on mirror for the reflection to exist, then Ishvara becomes a inferior, Maya becomes a tool in terms of this one. Or Ishvara becomes a superior, Maya appears to be subservient, allowing the creation to come through. But really speaking, if you see, Maya must be there, for mirror must exist before you can bind that Bhagavan as the Ishvara. So if you take it from that perspective, it appears to be two contradictory things that are happening. But contradiction is a inevitable fact when you are doing sadhana from that Advaita principle perspective. Contradiction is part and parcel of it till you realize. And that realization, when it comes, no longer you are required to do any contradiction, because there are no two things. And that no two things can happen only when you recognize that Ishvara as your own nature or Atman, yourself. And that yourself is the only thing that exists. It's not that Bhagavan is there, you are there. You become Bhagavan, or rather Bhagavan becomes you. Doesn't matter how you say that, because there is only one. And what action you require to do to arrive at that true nature? Nothing. No action is required. It is only a knowledge. Again, these are all terms that are given, but ultimately sadhana is when you recognize. It is only recognition that is there. No action is required. No exam you require to pass for that. Nothing like that. It is only the very nature as as yourself, as true yourself. Mohini ji, we have 2 minutes.
No, namaste. I just remembered Guruji saying once or read somewhere that he gave example of the jumper who jumps over that bar thing. What's
Correct.
that sport called? He said, till you reach to that height, you need that staff, that stick. And once you cross over that, you throw that stick.
You throw
Otherwise, it will prove a hindrance
correct.
to you. And
Absolutely.
that Ishwar Tattva, I think, is still that time needed. Once we reach that height, that speed, then we have to let it go. Otherwise, it will prove hindrance. We cannot cross, and we might throw that bar and everything and fall down.
Correct.
So it comes to me again and again, So
Absolutely
I
true.
think this is what it is.
Absolutely true. Not only Ishvara, you may or may not like, but even Guru, your Shastras, none of them, all of them belong to Mithya Prapancha.
Or if you take very simple example of a child, when he grows up, he holds finger to walk. After a few months or few days, he says, I don't need your finger.
Anymore.
After a few years, he says, I don't need you. And we
Absolutely.
have to let him go or her go. Otherwise, we prove for each other hindrance, So
Absolutely.
that is what I am thinking.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mohini ji. I think
Yeah.
you concluded it so nicely. Thank you very much. Okay, we will stop here. No point in starting 25. We will start with 25 in the next verse. Yeah, next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Hari Om.